The OPCW's latest mission is in Syria, where it's helping to identify and destroy the country's chemical weapons supplies. Well, CNN's Fred Pleiken has watched these inspectors work on the ground in Syria. Fred, you were able to watch them up close. Give us an idea of how they operate and how dangerous their work actually is.
Well, the danger of their work, Pauline, really depends on where they're actually operating. But of course, right now in Syria, in that situation where you have the civil war going on, it is quite dangerous there. If you recall, when they went into those neighborhoods outside of Damascus earlier this year, at the end of August, when you had that gas attack there, the convoy that they were traveling in, which of course was a UN convoy, was fired on in no man's land between government-controlled territory and territory controlled by the rebels. So it certainly is, it can be very dangerous work. And also, the nature of their work dealing with chemicals is something that requires very specific safety precautions. Now, the Nobel Committee today, in the reasoning for giving the prize to the OPCW, said that it was specifically not for their work in Syria, but for their body of work, having gotten countries to get rid of their chemical weapons stockpiles over the past decade or so, over the past decade and a half, I should say. However, of course, the Syria mission is centerpiece right now and is one of the reasons why this organization is at the forefront of the news. I want you to listen into what Ahmed Üzümcü, the Director General of the OPCW, had to say during a press conference when acknowledging the receipt of the Nobel Peace Prize. Let's listen in.
The Syria mission in particular is a great challenge to our organization, as I said earlier and on different occasions. Nevertheless, we believe that we have necessary knowledge and expertise which has been developed over the past 16 years in our organization, and provided that the situation permits, and I already highlighted the main challenge as the safety and security of our staff deployed in Syria. If the situation permits, we would be capable to deliver the tasks entrusted to us, as well as to do them within the determined deadlines.
Pauline, that's really been the note that the OPCW has been sounding. They say that if everything goes according to plan, they do believe that it is realistic for their organization to help Syria get rid of all of its chemical weapons in the timeline that's been defined, which is, of course, until the middle of next year. However, the security situation on the ground in Syria is the big variable. And, of course, the safety of the weapons inspectors that are out there is at the forefront of the concerns that the OPCW has. And already, the weapons inspectors that are on the ground there are out and about today in Damascus, again, of course, for the first time since they've found out that their organization has won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Fred, the Director General of the OPCW, who we just saw there during that news conference, also said to the reporters there that he hopes this prize will push the remaining countries who haven't signed the Chemical Weapons Convention to actually sign it and ratify it. He said there were 6 countries left. What do you think? Will it actually push these countries to do that? And ultimately, will it bring about peace?
Well, it could potentially do that. I mean, it's really interesting that right now there is, of course, a lot of momentum on the side of the OPCW and, of course, also on the side of the Chemical Weapons Convention to try and really make that a universal treaty. The countries that have still not signed on to it are countries like South Sudan, that's among them. Angola, Egypt, of course, is also a country that is on the list that have not signed the Chemical Weapons Treaty. Israel and Myanmar, for instance, have signed the treaty, but it's not been ratified in those countries yet. Look, the most important thing that's really happened in the past couple of months is Syria signing on to that treaty. Not only because that will make it, once that treaty goes into effect for Syria, the 190th country to have signed and ratified the chemical weapons ban, but also because Syria has such a large stockpile of chemical weapons. And right now, the process of trying to get rid of those weapons has already started. Of course, it's a very difficult time at this point, and really a very decisive time, whether or not the OPCW and the international community is actually going to get Syria to follow through on its promise to get rid of those chemical weapons. If that doesn't work, of course, it's going to be a huge blow. But if it does work, of course, that's going to be a very big thing to bolster the OPCW. And it's probably also one of the reasons, even though the Nobel Peace Prize Committee will not say so, the Nobel Committee will not say so, it is, of course, one of the big reasons why this organization was awarded with the Nobel Peace Prize. It's also to bolster it and to make sure that there is momentum to try and follow through and get Syria to give up its chemical weapons and to really aid this group in doing that.
Yeah, and that is the big question, whether or not the Assad regime will actually follow through with their promises and give full access to these chemical weapons inspectors.